as an industry, we get a really bad rap. Actually, as a product, insurance should be incredibly attractive to people. If you look at its emotional component, so at its core, insurance is that a group of people are prepared to come together and all put in so that if one of them is in trouble, there are funds to get that person out. That is real human-centric, base level, what we were designed to do, how we're at our best. And yet nobody really thinks of insurance in that way. Hey, I'm Sam White, founder of Stella Insurance, and this is the future of insurance.
Sam, it's really good to sit down with you. I've been, I wouldn't say stalking, but excitedly following you from afar. And then you did this interview in a McLaren that, like, not only was the insurance nerd in me excited, but the car nerd in me got even more excited. And so it was like the mashing up, but so we're not in a McLaren, full disclosure, but very good to sit down with you nonetheless.
It took me a while to agree to this on the basis that we're not in a McLaren, and obviously I'd like to be. I have to say though, a friend of mine had the opportunity to do like a test drive day with them a few weeks after that interview. So I got to drive one as well a few weeks
not just ride around.
Yeah, so that was good. That was good.
Yeah, excellent. Well, so other than that, and people understanding, like, you actually do know a thing or two about cars, but that's not why we're here. Tell us about yourself, your background, and then I want to get into Stella and what you've been building.
Well, the two actually do intertwine quite nicely. So I love cars, always been a total petrol head. I did a BTEC, that shows how old I am, in motor vehicle technology at school, amongst other things. Bought my first car when I was 13, did it up in the garage. I had, as my businesses became more successful over the years, I've had all sorts of lovely motors. So the fact that I started my career in motor insurance probably isn't that shocking if you look at it from that perspective, as being somebody that loves cars. But I started my first company when I was 24 from my sister's conservatory. Actually, that was handling claims on behalf of motor insurance brokers, and then moved on to working with motor insurance companies and built up the business from scratch. That business is still in existence today. It's got a couple of hundred people working for it. It's based in the north of England, and it's a very sort of traditional motor insurance organization. But having started a business as a 24-year-old female in what is a very male-dominated environment, you kind of over time start to realize that there's certain things that are a bit dysfunctional, that don't really work. And my personal belief is they don't work for men or women in the industry, and they, as a result, they probably don't work for the consumers either. So the whole thesis of Stella was, if the industry's so male dominated, and also what I would call left brain male thinking, which is very analytical, KPIs, numbers driven, more, bigger, better, that kind of philosophy. Whereas right brain, which is considered to be more feminine energy, is creative, collaborative, blah, blah, blah. If that is how the industry is built, then is it reasonable to assume that women won't have been massively considered in the design of financial services products? And would there be both a commercial and a societal benefit to looking through the lens from a female perspective? So that was the reason behind Stella was, I'm passionate about empowering and supporting women. I'm passionate about the insurance industry. I think the insurance industry would be better if it lent into both its feminine energy and being more kind of open to women coming into it. What can I do to contribute to that? And that was Stella.
I think it's a noble thing. Like you said, there's the social aspect of it. But when you really think about it, it is this fundamental sort of like subconscious or unconscious design bias from the very start. So that's very interesting, is like looking at the sort of structural or endemic issues that might stand in the way of solving for it. I'm immediately thinking of having been at traditional carriers, and we talked about, for example, going out after a Spanish speaking population, and
Yeah.
we translate our website and that was about it. And we try to market ourselves as a certain thing. And that's, I mean, in the US at least, that's very much the norm. Is it wasn't truly going back to first principles and rethinking, well, hang on, it's not just that they speak a different language. What is the issue that that person's facing that your existing solution doesn't account for? So you were taking it back to that sort of fundamentally, what have we designed in the first place? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So, obviously, and it's interesting you talk about the translation piece, because I've seen that in products that have supposedly been designed for women, where they just put a pink wrapper around an existing product. And it's like, there you go, and it's
maybe
not
charge more.
Like razors, razors. And we started from a perspective of, one, let's not assume we know. Just because the majority of our management team happen to be women doesn't mean that they know what the female customer wants. The first position should be ask the question. And I don't think we do that enough generally in insurance, because insurance is set up at the moment that it is all about, and it is about managing risk. But actually there is a stage before that to say, what risks are we covering and why? And what do the consumers actually want us to be covering? What's actually the pain points and the problems for them? That often doesn't happen because we get straight into, and if you go on a numbers-based approach, then people tend to want historical numbers to make a decision on the future of something. And so you end up locked in this is how it's always been done, because this is the information I used before, I now need to use it for the future. So before we did anything, sold a single policy, we did research with women. So we launched in Australia. I was really lucky that I did what's known as a media for equity deal with Bauer Media at the time, that owned all of the female magazines at Now Magazine, Marie Claire, etc. So I got some real kind of weight behind me in terms of launching the brand, but they also had a research team. So we were like, okay, we're going to leverage this. And we went out and we said, what don't you like about the existing product? And nobody really loves insurance apart from people that work in the insurance sector, which is, me and Nigel, we were talking about Nigel Walsh from Google the other day. We talk about this all the time, like, how do you get people to fall in love with insurance? And I'm like, well, maybe we should just start at and let's not kind of overshoot the bar. But our thing was, okay, what don't you like? And they came back with loads of stuff. They didn't like loyalty tax, which has been banned in the UK from a regulatory viewpoint, but still acceptable in Australia, where you charge renewal customers more than new business. So you lure them in with a cheap price. So for women, that really pinged them, because they were like, loyalty is so important. Right.
You should reward it, not penalize it. But we don't.
But we don't. And emotionally, that's a bigger deal for women than it is for men. And understanding that is really important. Then there was we looked at the underwriting, and the contents cover is pretty light, like in a motor policy. And actually women carry more stuff around with them, just by the nature of even prams. Like my COO Renee Cosgrave says that her pram costs more than her car. She's joking, but it's expensive. So it's like, we need more cover on that. And there was all these sort of subtle differences and bigger differences. But then there was ideological stuff that we uncovered. Like, if your vehicle is damaged by somebody that your claim is repudiated. So more women are victims of domestic abuse than men. One of the things that happens in those sets of circumstances often is that their property is also damaged. So they in that situation, and then their property is damaged, and then it's compounded by this clause. And so we kind of went, okay, there's a lot here, and this is just motor insurance. what happens when you apply that lens to health insurance? So, you know, I had a conversation with the eminent menopause doctor literally last week, because she can't get the consultations and the drugs and so forth. They're not covered in the health insurance policies.
Yeah.
And she's got all these women that, you know, 20% of the population is menopausal.
Yeah.
We don't cover it. You know, so there's so many things that affect women that aren't necessarily being built or considered or worked around, because the people that are building the products are, one, just building what they've always built, and two, even if they were looking from an innovation viewpoint, it wouldn't necessarily be a problem that they have personally and therefore would look to solve.
Yeah. Well, and actuarially, it may not make sense, but that's the point, is because it's a particular actuarial lens from a historical structuring of it. And so I always say, like, this is the difference between really anyone in insurance who isn't an engineer and engineers. If you tell an engineer something's impossible, they just add a little bit to the end of that sentence, and it's right now. So like, it's impossible right now. We just haven't figured it out yet. And that's why I love so many of the founders I talk to who come from an engineering background. They're like, so we saw this problem. We're like, how do we solve this? And it's like, oh, I thought the answer was like, so let's walk away and find something else. You know, it's they just like, they want to fight on and see what's another way to look at this that could take care of the issue, instead of just presuming you can't.
You can, and you know, I think we have over-indexed massively. I don't know if you've ever read Surrounded by Idiots.
No.
So have you ever done the insight profiling where they give you a color based on your personality type?
No, I've done lots of others, but I haven't done that. And now I've got something to look up.
You've got to. So I've done it a couple of times. My profile is hilarious, and the whole team, I read my thing out and they were crying, laughing, particularly the less than savory aspects to my personality type. But Insights gives you a color, and then those colors have certain personality traits. So reds are very competitive, they're doers. They tend to be in like managing director, CEO type roles, get stuff done, like push through, get stuff done. Greens are people centric. They like to rule by committee. They want to make sure everybody's happy. They tend to be sort of HR-y type people. Blues are analytical. They need the data. They need the information, and they need to know everything. And then yellows are big picture, you know, anything can happen. And you have different attributes that are both positive and negative in all of those. And some people are like a bit of a balance of all the different colors, and some are kind of extremely in one zone. So I'm an extreme yellow. So I have to be careful that I will start lots of stuff and not finish it. And that I take on too much, because it's like there's this big goal, and you know, so I need to be mindful of that in myself. And this book, Surrounded by Idiots, talks about why different colors annoy each other. Right? So yellows and blues can really butt heads. The reason is that a blue the worst scenario with a blue is that it can keep going down the rabbit hole of more information, because of course the more complex the information is, the more possible outcomes there could be, the more you can get paralyzed with indecision and not make a decision. At a certain point you have to go, I have as much information as I can get to, and therefore I'm going to go forward. And in the insurance industry we have so much blue, because it is based on, I'm going to analyze numbers, out. And it stops us from being able to move forward. It stops us being able to kind of test and learn and fail quickly and do all those things that you would typically see in other industries. Yeah.
Well, so I can't get past the title of the book. Like I have to read this. It's fantastic. I think that's really interesting. I think everybody listening is now starting to think like, what's my partner like? What are my coworkers like? What am I? Hopefully they're thinking, what am I like? But it is about having that balance. And so I'm curious to hear about Stella, and we've been talking about motor. What are the products, the coverages that you're focused on? Is it just a product for women? Do you have men? Are there, there's more than the two genders? Is it about the whole spectrum? Is that really what the issue is at all, or is it about something else? I mean, I want to hear more about what it is you're building specifically.
Yeah, so I talk a lot about masculine and feminine energy because I prefer to think in those terms, and that's where left brain, right brain, as opposed to gender. It's easier for me to say unapologetically for women because they've been so ignored in the whole insurance process. So I'm like, I'm happy to do that and take the consequences of that statement because I'm on a trajectory and I know where I'm headed. We insure men happily. I think we are designing products that men will really enjoy. So where I come from is I'm not Chinese, but I love Chinese food.
Okay.
Men have served up insurance to everybody for the last however many years, and it is lacking in an emotional connectivity, in creativity, in warmth, in collaboration a lot of the time. And as a result of that, as an industry, we get a really bad rap.
Yeah.
And I go, like, actually, as a product, insurance should be incredibly attractive to people. If you look at its emotional component, so at its core, insurance is that a group of people are prepared to come together and all put in so that if one of them is in trouble, there are funds to get that person out. That is real human-centric, base level, what we were designed to do, how we're at our best. And yet nobody really thinks of insurance in that way. And it's because we have not marketed ourselves appropriately. We've not thought about that component. We've not connected with the consumers in that way. And I say, if you start to take a bit more of that feminine right brain energy and start to build it into the products and think about the products from an emotional lens and a societal lens and make that connection, then my bet is that men will also enjoy it. They will be drawn to it in the same way. But what we're saying is we've lived in your world for a good amount of time. There's lots of stuff that's been designed from a male perspective for men. How about you let us have a go at this and see how you feel about it? Let us just take the reins for a bit and let's see how that kind of translates out for people. So it's more about that, and it's a bit cheeky, and there's a bit of that kind of our new campaign is ridiculously cheeky. And
you can get away with that outside of the US. There's some fantastic campaigns in the UK. I'm like, I wish we had those here, but
I'm coming for you. So that you will absolutely have those campaigns. And people often think that they can't, or that there's, regulators don't have a problem with you being cheeky. Regulators have a problem with you lying or saying that you're going to do something that you don't do. And I think these things get confused by people because they have these, it's like the idea of a moral hazard in insurance. I challenge that so much. I've got friends that have got businesses in sectors that insurers will go, we couldn't possibly insure that. And it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Why is that a moral hazard? Why is that an issue for you? And it's often really archaic, puritanical thinking, and nothing to do with risk and nothing to do with legitimacy of an organization.
Yeah. Just have that conversation Monday night at dinner. I want to hear you gave a little hint of maybe you're coming for us in the US. Where are you at right now, and what are you building towards, obviously to the extent that you can share things? So what are the covers or the geographies? Where is Stella today?
So at the moment we are live in Australia and the UK. We have motor in both regions. We have a partnership for pet in Australia, very, very new, with a really great bunch of people that have modified the product somewhat for us. We are going live with travel in both Australia and the UK in the next couple of months. But really, the idea is to all financial services. So, if you talk about, for me, the Stella effect is we have a very clear process where we go, okay, is this a product that we feel that we can add to by thinking about things from a more female perspective or not. So that's your first filter. If it's something that it's not going to make any difference either way, it's out. So we start from that process. We then do the research with the customers. What do you want to see? What do you need? We then speak to the carriers and say, will you work with us to modify this product so that it's fit for purpose, or we design from scratch if it doesn't exist. So we are in the process of designing the first ever domestic abuse insurance.
Wow.
And we want to embed that in the motor insurance policy so that if any of our policyholders are a victim of domestic abuse, we can step in and provide some funds for them. That's an example of, if you look at the two streams for Stella of modifying an existing product or thinking about something that doesn't exist today that should exist. That's a whole different sort of part of the business. Our plan is geographically to go global, and our plan is to hit all the different trajectories of financial services with that lens.
I love the North Star to it. And there's clearly like a unifying reason why not just insurance, other products would make a ton of sense to exist within that approach and that philosophy. What's really fascinating is I'm thinking about other fintechs that are pushing into insurance, and I can't think of a single instance where it was insurance first with an intention to branch out.
Everyone says this. Why not? Like, why not? So I think for me, it's women first. So it's like, that's my passion. That's my agenda. And what I think is amazing is one of the things that I talk about is lacking at the moment that we need more of, the collaboration element. Women are generally much more inclined in that direction. I've seen that as a female entrepreneur and how other female entrepreneur friends of mine, we just work together for the sort of greater outcome. We've got a lot of community plays. So Stella gives $5 from every policy to Women and Girls Emergency Centre in Australia. In the UK, we give £5 to the Fly Anyway Foundation. You know, both domestic abuse charities, both supporting women in completely different ways. But then we've also partnered with a load of female entrepreneur groups. So We Are One Roof, Enterprise Vision Awards, Northern Power Women. These are all groups of female entrepreneurs, all kind of meeting, connecting, supporting. And it's that ability then to amplify each other's voices, kind of stand with them on the issues that are important to them, but also use that forum to design. So we weren't ready to do business insurance yet. We didn't. It's on our list, but it's not where we want to go. And then one of the female entrepreneur groups that we're dealing with were like, we hate dealing with male brokers. Like, we feel patronized and discounted, and the products aren't actually the stuff that we're worried about. You know, we're worried about taking care of our kids if we can't work, like actual like nanny care, etc. Stuff that again isn't present in the products and hasn't been thought of. And they were like, will you work with us to design this? So we've started designing a biz pack because the need is there, the community that we've got is asking for it. And so yes, of course we'll put that forward. But then you come across other businesses that are also trying to solve problems that there is a really great synergy with. So there's so much opportunity for us to scale in this respect by just starting from that very simple process of, you know, does it improve the situation for women?
Yeah, I think that's actually something, like having that level of clarity is something a lot of us lack, or it might have existed 300 years ago when the business started. And it's totally not relevant today, and no one remembers it. And they've never stopped to create something to again, pull them together as to, you know, why do we exist? And is what we're doing aligned with that or not?
Yeah.
In the interest of time, I want to just get your thoughts kind of looking ahead. You've started this movement to try to solve for what is an unsolved need, whether it's something existing that needs changing or something that doesn't exist, and trying to create the right cover to speak to the true need out there. Is that, I hear a lot of talk about the industry as sort of like, it's creating like micro coverages for mobility and not like motor insurance, but then leaving you uncovered for the scooters and bikes and whatever else that you're riding the rest of the time. Do you see it as sort of looking for these moments of lacking coverage for the needs people have? Or is there something else from a product standpoint or beyond that you think will define the industry as we look ahead?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I am frightened by how the use of AI and machine learning is leading to more and more micro segmentation, and
Yeah.
huge swathes of people will end up not covered as a result of that. There's only one way that the current trajectory can go. So as an insurer becomes more and more focused on profitability, then, and I know the laws are different in the States to how they are in the UK, but we can change our rates in an hour if we choose to. And we've got more and more information coming in, and as I say, more segmentation, which inevitably is wildly discriminative.
Yeah.
So what we have at the moment is, if you're poor, we're going to charge you more money. If you live in a difficult area from a crime viewpoint, we're going to charge you more money.
Yeah.
If you've got a dangerous occupation, we're going to charge you more. So and then if you compound that with machine learning and AI, then it becomes more and more that disconnect. And I think we need to say, what is insurance at its core? What do we want it to be? And what are its uses outside of the uses that we have for it today? So I'm more interested in looking at the constructs that we have in insurance. So we are able to build products, just like we've talked about doing in our way with domestic abuse. Here's a real problem that exists in the world, that these women need support. They need access to funds to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
Can we create something that will provide that? And is there a group of individuals that will be happy to help support that cause? And I think there is an opportunity for insurance and government to really work together to create some different type of coverage that will have a genuine positive impact on society. Because government's not very good at getting the money to the right people at the right time in the right way. They're just not.
Yeah.
Insurance has that. They have that process already nailed on, where you can look at the data and you can screen for fraud, and you can do all of that sort of stuff. So the future of insurance for me is around us really coming together and working out as a society, what are the things that we're all prepared to put in to help support the people that need it most, and how can we use the structure of insurance to do that?
That's brilliant. I keep having these moments from like, oh, that's the intro clip, or that's the teaser. You go and blow it up. But there were several profound moments, and I appreciate that. And I think that's what I'd love people to focus in on, is not to take away from what you're building, but it's a lot more profound than just like, here's a motor cover that is more fit for, certain people. It's not that simple. What your message is way bigger than that. And I hope people are feeling that excitement. Is like, well, what if we rethought that sort of fundamental first principles question and stop saying, oh, we can't, because like you said, it's not that regulators won't let us do that. We've just told ourselves that story. What if we partnered with them and worked through it and looked at it differently? Hopefully every regulator's like, yes, we can be your friends.
No, I honestly don't think the regulator's the problem in any way, shape or form. I think, I think sometimes the mechanisms they use to solve the problem are a bit dysfunctional, but I do passionate. I mean, I love insurance. As an industry, I think there's so much good in it. I just wish that we could harness the power of it, which is huge, in a more effective way that was better for everybody. And I've seen so many dysfunctional elements of it over the years. So you can kind of step back from it and go, oh, we can definitely do better than this.
Yeah.
Myself included. I know where I've made mistakes, where things haven't gone the way that they should have gone, and you hope that you constantly learn and apply that learning and put it into practice. And I know every one of the Stella team is so passionate about this and so focused, and people say this every time they meet as we go out to these events and stuff. They're like, these Stella people are Stella people.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you do affect change, is with that kind of passion and purpose.
No, that's brilliant. Sam, thank you so much for giving me some time, and all these sound bites there. They are brilliant, but fantastic what you've been achieving, and I wish you success as you continue to build Stella.
Thank you for having me on, Bryan.
That was fantastic. Thank you to Sam for spending some time with me to share about what they're doing at Stella, but it got a lot more profound than that. Yeah, we talked about Stella, of course, but it's the message. It's this core reason. It's the driving force behind what they're building. And I do think that's something a lot of us have lost touch with, maybe never even knew about. Ask yourself, do you know why your company really exists? Do you know what it's really trying to achieve? And it's not just like, oh, well, we sell this insurance. We're trying to protect people. Get more specific than that. If you really push into that, you may find a great unlock for doing what you should be doing. And I think that's very exciting. And with those kinds of efforts and changes in mindset, I think we can really push this industry forward. So huge, huge thank you to Sam. I will be watching Stella's growth and expansion. There's a lot that they're trying to tackle, and I think that's great, but they do it with that clarity. This isn't a kind of shiny object syndrome. It's purposeful, and that's important. Thank you again to Sam, to the team at Stella for giving her up for a bit, and to all of you for tuning in. I hope this was valuable. When you have that purpose, you can start to do things differently. And Sam talked about that sort of female energy and willingness to work together and collaborate, which is spot on. And of course, I'm a fan of that because that's the message behind the new book, In the Future of Insurance series, Volume 3, The Collaborators. It's about working together. It's about that mindset. It's about that energy and that choice to go about things with a different perspective. So brilliant timing for Sam to talk about that message, because that's right in line with this book, which is just coming out now. So you can go to future-of-insurance.com/3, the number 3, or just visit Amazon in your country and you can get it pre-order in Kindle. You can get it on Audible. The paperback and the hardcover are just days away. Depending when you're listening to this, they may already be out. The official launch date is June 8th, 2023. So if it's before then, pre-order Kindle. You can get it on Audible right now. That secretly came out a little early, but the paperback and the hardcover are on their way very shortly. I'm very excited to bring that out. And she mentioned Nigel Walsh. Nigel gave a review of the book. Sabine van der Linden wrote the foreword. She's been on this show. I'm sure everybody knows who Sabine and Nigel are. And David Gritz from InsurTech New York worked together with me on this book. So very excited for that level of collaboration, for a book about collaboration, and to bring that to all of you. So check that out, future-of-insurance.com/3, the number 3, and you can get more info and get the book. I will see you back next time, and thank you for listening. Make sure you share the show with people you care about that you want to help inspire. This one is a great one to do that with, especially. It should excite people about the purpose of this industry and what's possible. Thanks, everyone.